Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Dr. Frel, your professor.
Hello class, good morning. So this will be our last topic for this semester, and this will discuss about special education. So before we define special education, please remember class that all students have a right of access to and participation in the education system. So this special education is the education of students with special needs in a way that addresses the students' individual differences and needs. Sometimes it is called special needs education. This can be discussed as the arrangement of teaching procedures, adapted equipment and materials to accessible settings, and other interventions that are being designed to address the needs of students with learning differences, with mental health issues, physical and developmental disabilities, and giftedness. So, what is the vision of the Philippine government for children with special needs in the country? So, the vision is that the state, community, and family hold a common vision for the Filipino child with special needs. That by the 21st century, it is envisioned that he or she could be adequately provided with basic education. So please remember class that this education should fully realize his or her own potentials for development and productivity, as well as being capable of self-expression, no, of his or her rights in the society. And more importantly, he or she is a God-loving and proud of being a Filipino. So, what do we mean by this basic education that we are mentioning earlier? This basic education comprises the primary education, or we call that the first stage, and the lower secondary education, or the second stage in education as defined by the UNESCO. So aside from the vision of special education, we have also these goals. So the goal of special education is to provide children with special needs appropriate educational services within the mainstream of basic education. So when we say appropriate education, this may comprise education in regular classes or education with the use of related aids and services, and or in case of special education, these are related services in separate classroom for all persons of the school day. So in order to realize the vision and the goals mentioned earlier, the Philippines have approved and implemented the following provisions of the law. First is that of the provision in the 1987 Philippine Constitution, particularly in Article 2, Section 17, that provides that the state must give priority to education. So how can we say that education is or a priority, or why it has to be prioritized? So education is to be prioritized because it gives people, it is education that gives people hope, that gives people confidence and dignity. Why? Because it equips them with the knowledge and the skills needed in order to escape this poverty. And another is education is a basic human right for all. and it is important for everyone to make the most of their lives. And having an education helps people to access all of their other rights. And education also improves their chances in life, and it helps them, to face or to tackle poverty. Then another clause is Article 14, Section 1 of the same Constitution guarantees that this education shall be accessible to all, and it should be made should take appropriate steps, for the access to education. So again, class, since education is a right, so therefore it should be made accessible to all regardless of differences among learners. Then another clause is the Magna Carta for Disabled Persons, or Republic Act 7277. Chapter 2, Section 12 mandates that the state shall take into consideration the special requirements of disabled persons and the formulation of educational policies and programs. So class, remember that disabled persons are part of the Philippine society. So therefore, the state shall give full support to the improvement of the total well-being of disabled persons as well as their integration into the mainstream of the society. So by this, the state shall adopt policies ensuring the rehabilitation, the self-development, and self-reliance of disabled persons. And it shall also develop their skills and potentials to enable them to compete favorably for available opportunities that they are capable of. On the other hand, class, learning institutions are encouraged to take into account the special needs of disabled persons with respect to the use of school facilities, class schedules, physical education requirements, and other pertinent considerations. And specifically, learning institutions are encouraged to provide auxiliary services that will facilitate the learning process for disabled persons. So that's why class, schools, when they are planning for their facilities or for the construction of their buildings, they are mandated by law to provide access or facilities made accessible to persons with disabilities. And so what are these auxiliary services? This may include, but it is not limited to this, to custodial services, food services, or health services, and transportation services. Then another clause is Section 14 of Republic Act 7277 also provides that the state shall establish, maintain, and support complete, adequate, and integrated system of special education for the visually impaired, hearing impaired, mentally retarded persons, and other types of exceptional children in all regions of the country. So what is this integrated classroom? This is a setting where students with disabilities learn alongside peers without disabilities, and extra supports may be implemented to help them adapt to the regular curriculum, and sometimes separate special education programs are in place within the classroom or through pull-out services. Now we have the objectives of special education. This is to provide a flexible learning and individualized support system for children and youth with special needs in a regular class environment in schools nearest the student's home. So what is this flexible learning? This is a method of learning where students are given freedom in how, what, when, and where to learn. So these flexible learning environments address how physical space is used, how students are grouped during learning, and how time is used throughout teaching. Then another objective is to implement a lifelong curriculum to include early intervention and parent education, basic education, as well as transition programs on vocational training or preparation for college. So it is suggested that the state shall make available an array educational programs and services. So, by this, the special education center should build on a school within a school concept as a resource center for children and youth with special needs. Another is inclusive education in regular schools, special and residential schools, homebound instruction, hospital instruction, and community-based programs, or alternative modes of service delivery to reach the advantaged children in far-flung towns, depressed areas, and underserved barangays. So now class, the Special Education Act of 2007 identifies 10 groups of children with special needs. We have the gifted children and fast learners, the mentally handicapped or mentally retarded, the visually impaired, the hearing impaired, the children with behavior problems, orthopedically handicapped children, children with special health problems, children with learning disabilities, perceptual handicap, brain injury with minimum brain dysfunction, dyslexia and developmental aphasia, those who are speech impaired, and persons with autism. So class, you might meet these children with special needs when you are already in the profession. Now let's discuss the principles of special education. First is students with special needs have a right to an appropriate education. So it is being defined earlier already. Second, the needs of the individual students are paramount in decisions relating to their education. That is correct, class. And the third principle is that parents should have an active role within the system. So especially today, class, where these children do not have access to their teachers or mentors, so parents have really that active role or involvement in the education of children with special needs. Then another is a continuum of educational services should be provided, and where practicable, appropriate education should be provided in ordinary schools for all students with special educational needs. When we say continuum of services, this identifies different service delivery models that will provide specially designed instruction to a student with disability. Then another class is Only in exceptional circumstances should a student have to live away from home to avail of the appropriate service. Meaning class, as much as possible, the students should live near their homes while availing educational service. Now we have the possible forms of special education. One is specialized teaching techniques. These are methods of teaching that are specifically designed to a particular education population, such as the children with the special needs, in order to allow them to learn with the most effective way possible that will fit their strengths. Then the second is special materials. This could be defined as, or could be explained as, that every classroom should have a library space for their books, comfortable setting, and they should have good lighting, and there should be spaces to help their special needs, no, such as in writing, and there might be a learning areas where they are being clearly partitioned, no, to address the needs of the pupils or students. And the third is that of special facilities that are being catered to address their needs. This might include transportation facilities and other supportive services to assist a child with this disability. And it might also include some speech language pathology or audiology services, no, or interpreting services, or psychological services, or physical facilities, and the like. So now, how about the philosophy of special education? It claims that each individual with a disability is entitled to the support necessary to maximize his or her potential. That's why the Philippine laws, the laws that we have discussed earlier, are really provided and implemented to help these children or students, no, or individual with special needs. Now, how about the purposes? One is special education aims to ensure that students with disabilities are provided with the environment that allows them to be educated effectively. And disabilities, no, that qualifies for this special education include all types of physical, mental, and behavioral disabilities. So, to provide appropriate educational program that are related services to each child with a disability requiring special education from age 3 through 21 years. Another purpose is to provide activities that foster social development and adjustment into the regular school and community activities. Another is to identify disability among the preschool children, to provide opportunity to participate in an approved preschool program within a reasonable distance from the child's home, and to provide a coordinated and comprehensive instructional program from kindergarten to high school. That's why today class we all have this comprehensive instructional program intended for Filipino children with disability. Another is to provide appropriate related services to the students with disabilities according to their needs. And these are being discussed earlier in class. No? Another is to encourage parental involvement in understanding of special education programs, to provide appropriate vocational services to the students with disabilities, and to provide healthy and friendly environment in and outside the school for each student with disability. So what are these special education services? These are designed to help the child learn skills that other children learn during general educational setting. So these activities or services may include therapy, counseling, adaptive equipment, transportation, accommodations, and or modification. And the special education services are provided in public or in private schools, and it also include special instruction in the classroom, at home, in hospital, in institutions, or in other settings. So according to research class, it is estimated that 2.49% of the population is disabled. No, that is according to the National Policy for Persons with Disabilities. And according to the World Health Organization, the general prevalence of disability is 10%. And in a research by Cotton in 2003 found that many parents tend to conceal the fact that they have a disabled child or deny the presence of disability in their children. So the World Health Organization classifies terms used in this discussion. One is impairment. So this refers to physical or mental defect or the loss or reduced function of a body part or organ. While when you say disability, it refers to a person-level limitation in physical and psychocognitive abilities. It may also refer to an impairment which limits the ability to perform certain tasks, while handicap is a problem encountered during interaction with the environment by the child. So again, class, special people are those who need special education and related services. And they include a child who has an intellectual disability, a hearing impairment that includes deafness, a speech or language impairment, a visual impairment including blindness, a serious emotional disturbance, and an orthopedic impairment. We have also the victim of autism. So this autism or autism spectrum disorder are both general terms for a group of complex disorders or brain developments. So autism is a complex development or disability that typically appears during the first 3 years of life and affects a person's ability to communicate and interact with others. So now, class, you have to realize that teaching profession requires knowledge, communication skill, aptitude, and so on. So special education is specially designed instruction program that will meet the educational, social, emotional, and vocational needs of students with disabilities. So there are professional preparation standards for the teacher that who will handle students with special needs. And this standard includes, among others, 1. The qualification of the teacher. This qualification should meet the required criteria to promptly satisfy the needs of the field. Then the second is the specialty of the teacher, meaning the teacher should be skillful in dealing with the students with special needs. He or she should have the insight to determine differences among the needs of different individuals. The third is being conversant or knowledgeable, meaning acquaintance with the latest innovation in the field also includes in the professional preparation of the teacher. Next is tactful. So the teacher is required to tackle the situation on a case-to-case basis. So she should have that ability or that standard. Then the next one is flexible and friendly personality. To have relaxed and friendly attitude of the teacher is significant, particularly in dealing with students of special needs. Another is to be able to create positive atmosphere. So this is another important factor, class, in rendering service to the special people. Then to be able to negotiate, because difficult situations and critical positions are settled with the art of negotiation on the part of the teacher. Then another is to have a sense of humor, because having sense of humor creates attraction and charm in the personality of the teacher. And another is to be a facilitator rather than instructor, because teacher has always been model for the students. So this importance is increased manifold when it is associated with the people of special needs. Another is to have dedication and commitment. So meaning the teacher needs to be dedicated and committed to the cause of his or her profession. And finally, to have a child-centered approach. So the teacher is required to extend love and affection to the students involved with him or her in the process of interaction. So class, do you think you have all this qualification? Are you ready to meet your students in your classroom? These students with special needs. Okay, class, so that would be all for this discussion. And for your activity is okay, if you are invited as a speaker in a graduation program of high school students with special needs, what will be the message that you want them to remember? Prepare a 1-minute video of your speech for these students. And please submit your output in the Google Classroom, or you may submit that in my mail. That will be all, class. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me throughout our discussions and all of our topics in this course. God bless you all.